So today, we're diving into the Quran's 11th chapter, Surah Hud. But here's the thing, we're not just going to look at what it says, we're going to ask why it's put together in such a unique, powerful way. The structure itself is the message. Take a look at this number, 7. That's how many major prophets get their stories told in this one single chapter. And that right there, that's our first clue that something really special is going on here. Because, you see, the way these stories are arranged, the way they repeat, and even the way they're fragmented, it's not random at all. It is a completely deliberate choice. The structure is designed to tell its own story. So let's unpack it together. All right, here's our game plan. We'll start with the basics of the surah, then we'll meet the prophets featured inside. From there, we'll see this interesting pattern of rejection emerge, which leads to the big question. Why tell the stories this way? And finally, we'll uncover this incredible message of strength that the whole thing was designed to deliver. Okay, first things first. Let's get a quick lay of the land. What are we actually dealing with when we talk about Surah Hud? So, it's the 11th chapter of the Quran with 123 verses. But here's the key detail. It was revealed during the Meccan period. Now, this was a time of really intense struggle and opposition for the early Muslim community. And trust me, that historical context is going to be absolutely crucial a little later on.
So who are these central figures, whose stories make up the very fabric of this chapter? Let's take a look.
The most detailed story, the one that gets the most airtime, is the story of Prophet Noah. We get the whole picture, his call to his people, their flat-out rejection of him, the building of the ark, and then, of course, the Great Flood. And this one line, wow, it captures such a powerful, difficult lesson. This is the divine response Noah gets when he's pleading for his own son, who is a disbeliever. It's this incredibly stark reminder that it's faith, not blood, that creates the bonds that truly matter, and that divine judgment is absolute.
But Noah isn't the only one here. The surah weaves in the stories of Hud, Saleh, Lut, Shu'aib, and even Moses. And each one of them faced their own people, delivered a pretty similar message, and ran into some fierce resistance. Take Prophet Hud, for example. His people didn't just disagree with him, they called him a fool. Think about how personal that kind of rejection is.
And as you read through these stories one after another, you can't help but notice it. A very clear, very deliberate pattern starts to emerge. Here it is. This is the pattern that just keeps showing up. A prophet is sent with a message from God. The people mock him, they deny him, and they reject that message. This exact cycle, it happens again and again and again all throughout the chapter.
Which brings us to the big puzzle, right? I mean, if the goal was just to teach history, you'd probably just list these events in chronological order. But the Quran doesn't do that. So why this specific, repetitive, non-chronological structure? What is going on?
To figure that out, we have to make a little shift. We need to go from what the surah says to why it says it the way it does. We're moving from just the content to the actual purpose behind it. And lucky for us, a really fascinating 2023 study from the Essentia Journal is going to be our guide. Researchers looked at this exact question, and their answer connects the psychology of how we use language with the history of when this chapter was actually revealed. Now, the study relies on this really cool idea from linguistics called the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. Basically, what it says is that language isn't just a tool we use to describe the world, it's more like a pair of glasses that actively shapes how we see everything. The way you tell a story can literally change how someone thinks and feels about it. So think of it this way. A history textbook is all about what happened and when it happened. But Surah Hud, it's playing a totally different game. Its goal isn't just to record facts, it's arranging these stories to create a very specific, emotional, and psychological impact. It's asking the reader, what does this mean for us, right here, right now? And that's the key. The pieces of these stories, specifically the parts about rejection and mockery and stubborn disbelief, they weren't picked out of a hat. They were carefully selected and arranged because they perfectly mirrored what Prophet Muhammad himself was going through with his own people in Mecca at that very time. So what was the point of all this? What was the ultimate purpose of telling the stories this way? Well, it wasn't just about sharing history. It was about delivering a powerful, deeply personal message of strength and comfort. Think about it. By hearing these repeating stories of past prophets who faced the exact same struggles and still persevered, the Prophet Muhammad was essentially being given a divine support system. It was like a voice saying, hey, you're not alone. What you're facing, it's part of a long, noble tradition. Do not lose heart.
The message was designed to strengthen his resolve. And you can really feel the incredible weight of this chapter in a famous tradition. The Prophet Muhammad himself is reported to have said that this surah, and others like it, had made me old. That tells you this wasn't just a collection of bedtime stories. It was an intense, emotionally heavy message that he took right to his core.
So when you look at it this way, the structure of Surah Hud is just a masterclass in psychological reinforcement. It shows that how a story is told can be just as important as the story itself. And it leaves us with this final thought. When we're facing our own struggles that feel totally unique to us, how can we look to the patterns of the past, not just for a history lesson, but for a source of real strength, a lifeline, showing us we are not the first to walk this path?